filtering out all that additional data that maybe some of the others aren't as good at. So they really kind of consider their use cases general and social media users, but like I said, enterprise users really like it as well. It's growing very quickly, continues to improve. I would say they all are growing quickly and continue to improve. Claude, people consider that really great with long context. It's very thoughtful in its responses. Coders really like it. It's had some really great coding interactions. I'll show you, ChatGPT is actively chasing that market. So we kind of see that as a focus on enterprise coding and education users. It's got that little more thoughtful perspective. Perplexity, that's an AI search engine is really how they market themselves. A really fantastic tool. Its main focus is on research and learning. It's great in addition to all of these others. Mistral is based in France. It's open source. It's a very, very fast tool. Developers, people that love to just code and tinker with things, particularly love Mistral. And DeepSeek has gotten a lot of news, especially at the beginning of this year. Of course, it's based in China, made a lot of waves, very inexpensive new language learning model that was released, uses less technology, but it is based in China. So we tend to steer our clients away from it. We don't know what they're going to do with the data. You don't know what's happening with it. So we tend to focus, most of our clients end up focusing on ChatGPT, but we recommend trying all these different tools, see which ones you like. There's not one that's right and one that's wrong. They just have different personalities. And I used to use it for validation. It's fun to validate them against each other as well. So yeah, we just encourage playing with them and getting to know the different personalities and what you like, because that's what's right. It's not, sorry.
Oh, so like you finish your sentence.
Yeah.
I just said, so I was in a chat or an AI session last week, and she's based on all of those. She said that certain ones are only updated through like 2023 or their information is
great point. Yes, that is
there
true.
A one that's more
sorry,
quote current.
Well, okay, so ChatGPT is actively searching the web now with every.
Yeah, I did notice
that.
It's
free. So here's what I would caveat that with. Let me push forward back together.
So I'm not trying to take.
You're not at all. No, it's a great question. They're all changing so fast is the first thing. For any of the free models, you need to check and see if it's actively searching the web, because some of them do and some of them don't. But for most of the paid models, most of them do have a web search functionality. Some of them you may have to say, like tell it explicitly to go search the web, whereas some will just do it naturally. ChatGPT, you used to have to explicitly tell it to search the web, and that was only once it had that ability, right? It didn't start there, and now it'll do it automatically. So they're just evolving quickly. She's not wrong, and it is important to know that. But if you're paying for it, you almost certainly have a web search ability as well.
Okay. Well, yeah. Yes. I mean, I guess I had to create resumes for the current team, and I just gave it LinkedIn profile, and it went out, looked at their Facebook. I mean, it was great.
And you did ChatGPT for that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, it did that, and we have the paid side. But yeah, she was just referencing like certain things was only updated until 2023, and I was like, well, I don't know, it seems pretty current, but
most of them are much more current. We used to really, as I started giving this talk, really have to talk about that. The fact that your instance of ChatGPT versus yours might have a different date, and they weren't actively searching the web. But that's really not true anymore for ChatGPT. For the others, I just can't speak to them quite as much. I play with them, but I'm not as deep in them. Yes. Okay, so I like to just kind of briefly.
Sorry. I spent a week about a month ago at Microsoft where we went through their Copilot training.
Okay.
And I think the term my friend probably used was they call it rooted in the web.
Yeah.
Meaning that not only is it like, for example, you can look and ChatGPT will tell you the date that it did its latest download. And this was a month ago, it was December of 2024. So it can search the web, but it's gathering you that information in real time. But all the data that's been gathered by that pull down date has been processed through its system millions of times. So if you tell it to say today, summarize the recent Supreme Court, decision on Bell waiver and asylum seekers, search the web and find it, and it'll give you an answer. But if it was told that the data was 6 months old, it would have run it through like tens of millions of iterations. Right now, it's just searching the web and trying to figure it out. So the processing that's gone through it is different.
I think that's a great description. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think also, I'm going to talk more about Microsoft Copilot as well. And I think it's also important to know Microsoft Copilot, you probably even know this better than I do. They have a web search, and then they have kind of your default search. Microsoft Copilot is built on ChatGPT's technology, but it's not the most current ChatGPT technology. So people often say, I don't get the same results, and that's because their models are older from the Microsoft 365 Copilot piece. Not wrong, not bad, just using, something to be aware of. Okay, which ChatGPT subscription is right for us? I bring this up because there's a data security component to ChatGPT subscription. So of course, there's the free version we're all familiar with. The problem with the free version is that by default, all of your data, any queries or anything you upload is shared with OpenAI for learning. So as long as you're not uploading confidential data, of course, maybe that's not a problem. But the concern here is, what if your employees are, right? Every single one of your employees has the same access to ChatGPT that we all have. And we want to make sure that your data stays secure for your company. So what we recommend, the next level, first that free one, next level is a personal subscription. And that's great because it gets you some increased data security. You do need to go in and make sure that that's turned on, that you're not actively sharing with ChatGPT and OpenAI to learn from. But that's secure to you. It's sort of like your own personal universe. The next level is a Teams model, a Teams subscription, and that's what we use. That's what we recommend for the businesses that we work with. Personal is $20 a month. A Teams subscription is $25 if you pay on a yearly basis, $30 if you pay month to month, so $25 to $30 a month per seat. What changes in a Teams model is that it becomes a closed garden, like a walled garden, the way we think of a traditional business application. So, your Microsoft installation doesn't speak to his, doesn't speak to yours. That's very critical for keeping your data secure, making sure that you know what's going on with your data. And that's the first thing that changes with Teams is that all of your data is safe. It cannot be shared with OpenAI. You can't even change that slider to change it for them to learn with. So you can upload financial statements for analysis. You can upload specs, that you're bidding for a job that are confidential and have confidence that that's not going to go anywhere outside of your company in that setting. The other thing is that, of course, it becomes collaborative if you would like it to be. So, you can invite a coworker to work with you on a job description or a document that you're working on in ChatGPT. So you have a collaboration component as well. You can also say share text, or not a text stream, but like a query that you're doing in ChatGPT. You can share those internally. If you share it externally, it just goes as a PDF where you need to copy and paste all that data. But you can share that query with them internally, and they can start interacting there too if you want them to. You don't have to let them. So that's what we recommend is a Teams subscription. If you have questions about that, obviously let me know. It's a minimum of 2 seats. So you're not committing yourself to 100 seats or anything like that. There is also a pro model. It's $200 a month, very focused on academic or research heavy kinds of use cases. They roll out all the newest features to the pro model first, of course, but Teams gets them next. So Teams gets the most deep research queries. They have access to the best video and image generation tools. And this list of items changes almost every day or at least every week. So I try to keep really current on it, but they do ship that stuff around. The personal one gets a little bit less access. They still are getting the ability to build GPTs and build their own GPTs, use deep research. It's just they get fewer amounts of queries and access to those kinds of tools. So there's an enterprise level as well, PepsiCo, Frito-Lay's, the huge companies, probably outside the scale of what most of us would need, but that's what we really recommend. And then I'm pretty sure my next slide is going to ask if you guys would like me to do kind of a demo of ChatGPT and
about the cost. Do we think that that's going to be decreasing as competition comes in, or is ChatGPT so different?
Well, I tend to believe competition brings down costs. The one thing I will say, the fees they've been charging for personal and enterprise have been pretty consistent, but they've continued to add a lot of new tools to them. So they are increasing the scope of what you're able to do with those on a very rapid basis before they're reducing costs. So I'm not sure the cost will go down anytime soon. All right, you guys want me to jump into ChatGPT and we'll do a little bit of a demo. I am going to share it. It's just window won't change. Okay, so I think you guys are all familiar with the general ChatGPT interface when you log in. Over here is kind of the default model. So everyone's got ChatGPT Codex. I just saw it for the first time today. So I mentioned that Claude is really, coders love it. This is sort of ChatGPT's first attempt to really take on that market and really kind of capture that market share back. Sora is a video generation tool that ChatGPT has. It's part of the Teams model. These are custom GPTs that our organization has built, and so they show up there in my models. And then I've also got projects. Projects are basically, it looks like a folder that you can share a bunch of different queries. Or keep a bunch of queries in one place and continue to build on that. So I do, for instance, a lot of webinars. So I often upload basic information, and then I'll do a different query and interaction for each webinar I'm developing, but it keeps it all in one place, organized and easy for me to reference again later. So let me grab a query I've got here. Has anybody used the deep research function? Okay. Fantastic. So deep research goes beyond the general ChatGPT interface by researching multiple sources and then analyzing all of that data and compiling it into a huge report. So it's the kind of thing, we like to think of it as the kind of thing that probably take 30 or 40 hours of work. But let me share a, sorry, that's not the right one. Legacy group is here, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, but I've got the wrong city. I apologize. Let's fix that. Okay, so here's the draft. Let's fix it as we go. I'll read it. I'm the operations manager of Legacy Group Inc. And I put learn about me here with the URL because there's multiple, of course, there can be multiple companies with similar names. And we're located in
Renton, Washington.
Okay. If anything's wrong, just tell me, we'll fix it. We are a full service commercial interiors contractor focused on office furniture and flooring. I'm considering expanding into a new high growth market in Idaho. I just threw that out there. If you'd like something else, it's totally fine. Okay,
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Let's open it up, baby.
Yeah,
We're doing this right
I'm so glad.
Wow, that's how good it is.
That's right.
It's mind reading.
I love
Oh
it.
no,
I love it.
don't have any other thoughts.
Right. All right, so provide an in-depth analysis of current market conditions in the state, including market size, growth trends, key competitors, potential customer segments, and important factors or barriers I should consider before entering this new market. Conclude with strategic recommendations on whether or not this expansion would be advisable and where the best locations to expand could be. So what I want to use deep research, like I said, and you can see when I hover, it says I've got 20 available until June 12th. I think I get 25 or 35 every month. They kind of change that pretty quickly. So as you use them, it just counts down and gives you a countdown. But you just click this button, it'll turn blue. This drop down's new. Let's see what it says. I guess you can point it to different apps you might have connected. So that's a nice tool that you can use as well. I've never done that with deep research, but okay, let me tell it to go. This will take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the number of sources. So we're going to let this run in the background while we play with some other functions in ChatGPT. Now in deep research, it almost always comes back and asks clarifying questions. So here, we'll read through them and you just throw out the answers. So it says, to tailor the market analysis for Idaho more precisely, could you please clarify a few details? So are you primarily interested in expanding furniture, flooring, or both segments of your business in Idaho?
Oh.
Okay. And you can see I'm just going to be real cryptic with my answers. I'm not going to write sentences or anything else. So are there specific cities or regions that you're considering? Or
Not yet.
Nope. Okay. Do you prefer to target specific customer segments, such as corporate offices, government buildings, education institutions, healthcare facilities, or a mix?
Anything but government.
Okay. And what's your approximate timeline?
2 years.
Okay. Perfect. Occasionally, it'll come back and continue to ask for a few clarifying questions, but usually it just says something along the lines of this. Great, I'm going to go out and analyze the commercial interiors market in Idaho, blah, blah, blah. And I'll let you know when the full analysis is ready. And so it gives you a search bar here. And as it starts going, that'll start to fill up along the way. And you can sit here and watch it. It's not very exciting. A little bit like watching paint dry, but you can just leave it. You can even close the window and just pop back into it later. It won't delete it or anything like that. So I'm going to come just to a blank window, And I like to start with a really basic type of interaction on ChatGPT because it helps to explore what other things are possible and different as I share these with you. So this will probably be something, the type of interaction here that you're familiar with. So I'm the leader of Kana Brand Solutions, and Tana, thank you. And I put the website, and then I said, I need help with creating key performance indicators that we should track monthly. Create this table of KPIs. So, I'm sure many of you have played with having it create tables, but that's a feature I think is actually really neat, that it will also create tables, charts, anything else you ask it to do. Is this the type of thing you've ever asked any of your sales managers or sales leaders? I often ask that question. People are like, yeah, they never came back. They never brought me those KPIs. Exactly. So I think many of us have had that experience. And so here we've just given ChatGPT that question. And it says it's going to, focus in your correct sector. And then it creates a table very quickly. This probably hasn't even been 30 seconds. And it looks like it's going to break it down by a couple of different categories. So starting with sales and revenue, it's got a KPI, a metric definition, and why it matters. Sorry, the resolution is a little bit poor. So I'll just read a couple of them just so that you guys get a feel for what it's got. But it's got category, sales and revenue, total monthly revenue. The definition is total income from all sales. And why it matters, it indicates overall business growth and health. So then we've got things like new client revenue, average order value, sales by product lines, repeat customer rate. And then you can see it's doing something really funny here. It didn't really process everything. It has been pretty good recently. Let's see. Can you fix the table? Well, now you can see it's already done something I like to highlight, which is it's cut out one of our columns. So as you go through this type of traditional conversation with ChatGPT, it often will change your output each time you ask a new question, which can be disruptive. If there was something you really liked in the previous result, but you just wanted a small tweak, you've got to watch for that. So I just like to kind of call that to attention. So you might imagine I do this type of query pretty regularly, and every single time I get different output. And not just industry focused difference, but like this one, you can see it's giving me a table for each different area. So sales and revenue, I've got a small table. Customer metrics, I've got a small table. Usually it will give it to me in one table. Lots of times there's 4 columns like we saw before. Sometimes it includes the recommended calculation to get to that. Sometimes it doesn't. So with a less precise query, you're going to get more general responses. Sometimes that's great because it's helping you to ideate with what you need. Sometimes you know specifically what you need, and that is not helpful. So here we see there's 6 different parts of the table. What I'm going to ask it to do is, let me grab this other part of my query. So I'm going to ask it to add KPIs that should be tracked quarterly and combine all of these into a single table. Let's see if it does it. Right. No, you're having a little lag, but I can tell you this is positive. So, okay, so it's putting everything together into a single table. So now we've got a category, a KPI, a definition, and we've added a column called frequency, and it added back in that column said why it matters. So always a little bit funny, and it's doing this strange thing again where it's not giving the whole table. It's just kind of
just came up with it.
yeah, I've never really seen it do it quite like this, but I think it's helpful to see this really is the way. Sometimes it works like this, sometimes it works perfectly. You just don't really know. And I often just say, can you fix the table? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so we'll let that kind of go. The next thing I'll show you, hopefully it'll fix the table, but I know several people I've talked to have said I've tried to output that to Excel because what I think is really great about something like this is not that this is probably not the perfect list of KPIs for your company, but I hope it's a good start. And if you can use ChatGPT or these generative AI tools to get you down the road, right, like 75%, 85% down that path, and just you can iterate on it and and hopefully make your work much more efficient and streamlined, then you're, I think, gaining that productivity and value from these tools. So it is put it into a table, and you can always use these expand table buttons. It'll just blow it up into a big table, and you can see what it's done. Now, at this point, if you want to put it back, you just collapse the table, take you back to that other traditional window. So I'm going to ask it to just give me a Google Sheet. And it used to be with ChatGPT that when you would ask it to give you a Google Sheet, you would download it, you upload that to your Excel or Google Sheet, and it was blank. Maybe you have the column headings or something like that. So okay, I've downloaded it over here. Let me just open up Google Sheets real quick. So just import, open up that file. Shouldn't take too long. And you can see it's done a very good job of taking all that data and exporting it to a Google Sheet, Excel, whatever you like. So again, just makes it really easy to get started and iterate. And if you need to share this with somebody, obviously that sales manager who never got back to you, give them a place to start. That's kind of the power of these tools and these interactions. So let's move on. Has anybody played with Canvas in ChatGPT? Okay. So let's start a new query. So anytime you want to start a new conversation, just come back up and click the ChatGPT button. And that just lets it know, like, don't worry about what we were talking about before. This is a new conversation. We're going to start from scratch. And let me paste in a new query. So this one says, learn about my company, Enetics Networks, LLC, and I put the URL, and then create a job description for a senior level accounting manager that we need to hire. So what I'm going to do before I run this is click these little 3 buttons, and it shows other tools that are available. Right now, only Canvas is available, so I don't know why they don't just have it as a button, but sometimes they add more tools down there. And so you can see it added in blue at the front, Canvas. And so that's how I know that when I run this query, it's going to go straight to Canvas. So let's push go, and you'll see a couple of things happen as the query begins to run. The interface will shift very slightly. So you can see it kind of puts it in a bubble window as it starts. And then it's going to throw all of my text interactions over to the left. And then this main window becomes kind of like an active worksheet that I can now edit directly. And as I ask it to make changes, as we go, you'll see they happen directly in this particular output versus giving me a new iteration each time. So you no longer in the situation where you might lose all of what you liked. You have the ability to just modify it directly here. So let's see what it did. It sounds like many of you have tried ChatGPT a little bit for job descriptions. I think it's getting more and more common. They're obviously not the most fun things to write, but this is a great place to get started. So, we gave it very minimal instructions, and it's got a job title, tells us to specify a location. So I'm going to show you how you can just edit directly. So location, I'm just going to put Seattle. And so like you see, I just highlighted it and I start typing, and it just edits this document directly. So just like in Word, nothing new there, but different from how ChatGPT has worked before. Yeah, so it's taken the company overview most likely from the website. It's created a position summary, some key responsibilities, qualifications, why join Enetics, and then it's got an area where you can insert the link or the email that you want the resume sent to. So let me show you some other really cool features about this Canvas interaction. So say this position summary area, I'm going to just highlight this, and you can see this new bubble window pops up. And this is actually formatting. So there's like bold, italic, some fonts. But this first window asks ChatGPT. If I click into that, it gives me just a little text box that says edit or explain. And I can say something like, can you please add more detail here?
This all has to be done in Canvas.
Yes, and as it's doing this, I've also before you've been talking to a group and I forgot to push the Canvas button. I was like, oh darn, I really wanted to show you guys that. So when I did my second query, then I pushed Canvas and I did the query and it'll just change over. Okay. So you can move into Canvas even if you didn't start there, if you forgot, which I think is a neat feature. Okay, so you can see it's now editing that specific area. Position summary, and you'll see it's actually significantly longer what the output is. So that's really cool. You can just make edits to specific areas of the job description or whatever it is that you're working on. Another thing that's in Canvas, okay, if you didn't like the edits it made, up here in the right corner, there's a couple of buttons, so you can show the changes, which is really nice. Like if you're not quite sure what it did, it can highlight the changes for you. You can undo, go back to the previous version. If you did that, you can obviously redo it. That's the copy button. And if you just want to share it, remember I said you could share with folks in your team. I can create a link. And this link will only, it says members of your workspace can view. So it'll only work if I send it to somebody internally to me. If I wanted to share this with one of you guys, which I'm happy to share any of this stuff with you, just shoot me an email. I would just paste it into a document, make a PDF for you or something like that. So the other thing that's very cool in Canvas is this little pencil button in the lower right corner. So the first thing that pencil button does is say suggest edits. So this is a very handy tool if, for instance, you said, write me a blog post, right? I need a blog post. But then one thing where these LLMs excel is in iterating on itself. So it can do a great job of going back and editing itself, where I think that's hard for most humans, actually. You know, we know what we think it should sound like. Again, maybe we don't have that third-party perspective. So it can suggest edits. I don't know that it's as important in a job description, but I just like to show what these are. You can adjust the length. So again, maybe that blog post example, it gave you 400 words. You want it much longer, you just drag this slider up, or again, make it shorter. Again, the job description, I don't think it's super important, I won't do it. This is a really cool feature as well, reading level. I can make it much more advanced. So I needed to go to graduate school level, or I can bring it all the way down to like the kindergarten level. And so depending on what kind of job you're hiring for, that could be a great tool. You know, you might want to set that at high school level or something. I'll just put college just so that you can see how it kind of goes to work and changes some of the vocabulary. It's just a fun tool to watch. And then I'll show you what those last little ones are.
How much time do you spend in Canvas versus just in regular GPT?
I probably do about 60% in regular, maybe 70 in regular, because a lot of my queries are simple things. Like I was at the LA airport, and I was like, where should I eat? You know, I found I'm going here for all the basic queries that I might do web searches. Instead, it'll do the web search for me and give me, here's the top 3 restaurants. Great, I don't want to think about it. I just got a list. But when I'm doing bigger work, I find I like Canvas a lot because of the fact that it doesn't delete everything and start from scratch.
Yeah, right.
I really hate when I've got something I like and then it just deleted all the good stuff. Okay, so you know it's probably pretty subtle, but let's just look at where the changes are, and we can see it's just changed some of the you know, the text to make it. Yeah, it's just a really neat, easy tool to play with. The last ones are at a final polish. It's just kind of a really high level cleanup effort there. Like I said, it does a great job editing itself. And then the one that is very generational, add emojis. So I'll just click it just to show you. It's too emoji-y for me, but but some people love it. My coworkers all send me emoji things, so. But when it gets going, it just goes straight through. There you go. You can see. Well, sorry, it's popping up. You can see it just adds those silly emojis to all the different parts of your documents or whatever you're working on. So again, it does that. You think that's silly. You just come up and click that undo button once it finishes, and they'll all go away. So they're fun tools to play with.
Can you delete? You could edit,
Yeah,
like if you want to delete some of them, or
Absolutely. So let's see.
That is heavy on the
It's
emoji.
so-
it is
Yes,
a little.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could even say like, if you want to do a massive, like, or not a massive, but a comprehensive edit or like thing, you can come back to this main text window and continue conversations here. It'll affect everything over there. But I could say here, for instance, I want less emojis, and it'll go back through and delete them. You guys probably already know when it's running, it does that little stop button, you know, and that's how you know it's actively working, and then the stop button goes away. So anyway, if I go in here, I can just delete emojis individually. There you go. So right by the Seattle and the Genetics networks, I'm just deleting them individually. But obviously I wouldn't want to go through and delete each one. That would be pretty tedious. But yeah, so it's a pretty silly tool, but that one is it's kind of fun to play with. So if you're in Canvas and you're finished with that, you want to go back to the traditional window, you just click this X close button up in the left, and it'll just switch back to the more traditional interface. And then that whole chat is still available, and it'll even switch back into Canvas if I like re-enter it later. So here it is, the senior accounting manager chat. And if I clicked out, like, you know, it's that KPI one, and I came back, I could just continue editing. It'll go straight back to Canvas anytime. I can just expand it, make it do that automatically, or continue the chat and it'll do it. So I love Canvas. I think it's a really great tool. I think it's underutilized. Yeah, no.
How does Canvas work like with that KPR chart? Does it work well with charts?
Mhm.
Okay.
Here, let's do this. So I often show this. Let's add. Okay, I'm gonna just have it add a table. This says, using this job description, create a week-by-week onboarding plan for this new hire with 30, 60, and 90-day goals specified. Make the 30, 60, 90-day goals into a table with column headers from left to right of goal, timeline, deadline, and complete or not complete. So you can see, I learned from my KPI query, I want specific output, I'm gonna tell it what I want. And some, like I said, sometimes you know what you want, and sometimes you don't. So it's not wrong to not give it that information, but see, so first it's giving me, look, I didn't do it in Canvas, but we can get there. So it's giving me a week-by-week onboarding plan all over here in the left. And it's giving a bunch of bullet points. And then it's creating a table. So let's just say, and we put the table in Canvas. And this is another thing where ChatGPT is funny. Like sometimes it automatically puts it in Canvas and sometimes it puts it in that window. So I'd just be a little patient. And so you can see it's leaving my whole job description, which is fantastic. I didn't want that to go away. But as it slowly comes down, here we go. So now it's adding that bullet point list, which is really nice. I think this is a really cool thing to try, especially if you're hiring for a new role you've never had before. There might be things you hadn't even thought of that might be important for that role. So it's just got a nice list of bullet points that might be important over those first 4 weeks. And here's our table. Okay, so it's got this table. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight deadline, and I'm going to say ask ChatGPT, and I'm going to say update with a start date of July 1st. And then it should go ahead and just edit our table and give us specific dates. Yeah, it's a bit crazy today. I don't think I've ever had to ask it so many times to fix things.
Did you say thank you?
Yeah.
Exactly. Was I polite enough? See if it'll work. But yes, it should work with tables just the way it works with everything else. Hopefully it'll get there today. And if not, I think you got the gist. And when it's more cooperative one day, hopefully.
The more you use it, the more it becomes accustomed to you, or
Definitely.
is it like it knows what kind of charts you like, or?
Yes, I think I haven't explored that specific question in terms of like, does it know the charts I like or not? But I think it would. It definitely learns your behaviors, and I'll show you another place where you can add some personalization to it as well. But it does get much more specific in terms of like, if you're a very analytical person, it's going to go down that path more quickly if those are the kinds of queries that you ask. So it does learn you. So it did update finally with the deadline, with the date. So just a very cool, obviously you can do that in Excel just as easily, but it's just nice to know what your different tools are. And again, you could export that, copy and paste that straight to Excel. So I'll show you, I mentioned the personalization. This little L is our little louder icon. So that's how I know I'm in my team's account. So you can see my email, I can add a TA to manage my workspace. Tasks is kind of an early agent. And so an agent is basically something, let's just click on it, I'll show you. A task is something that you can tell ChatGPT to do, and it should go out and do it either on a regular recurring basis or a one-time basis. So for instance, I have a daily task set up to summarize AI news. This, I think, is hidden in that menu because it's very fickle. So sometimes it works great, and sometimes it sends me an email that it couldn't get my AI news. So, it's just some days it works and some days it doesn't. This was today's. It actually did do an AI news roundup. And, OpenAI launches GPT 4.5, Google DeepMind's unveils Gemini 2 Lite. So just a quick set of headlines, you can customize that however you want. It will give you the option to email it to you or to pop up in your app. Again, it doesn't always work. So just know that's something that's kind of, they're developing and is coming. I think that will probably be perfected pretty soon. My GPTs, that's the custom GPTs I've made. I'm going to talk about that. But this customized chat GPT, that's where you can tell it, this is my name, this is kind of what I do. What traits should ChatGPT have? So I tell it a little bit about myself. I've also told it, it's probably not there yet, but avoid using, I actually asked it, because it does those weird dashes that always give you away that it's ChatGPT. I said, give me a prompt to remove the dashes from your output. And this is the prompt it gave me. Avoid using in dashes, I don't know what it's called, or an in dash in responses. Use commas, periods, or other standard punctuation instead. So you can give it that kind of direction as well. Like, so I also say avoid using emojis. I don't really care for the emoji output. So you can add all that kind of stuff. You can add interests and values. You can let it know if you want it to search the web kind of automatically here. You want it to use all these different tools. If you want to turn them off for some reason, then of course you can. So that's a nice place to customize it and do that over time. If you find you're constantly giving it the same instruction, I am a blah, 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 maybe just add that as a permanent instruction. Or you can do that also in projects. So a lot of people like to use projects as maybe like a strategic partner. So when you create a new project, let's call it strategic partner. And it says projects keep chats, files, and custom instructions in one place. So what's really special there is that I can add custom instructions that are only related to this project. So here I could say, be my strategic, I'll just talk, I won't type in, be my strategic partner, help me think about topics in ways I wouldn't naturally think about them, present a counterpoint of view, or whatever you want to say. And then it will keep those instructions for every different chat you have. If there's files that might be important to this, maybe it's an analytical project, maybe you want to analyze a specific financial document every month and get it output in a certain way, you could add that, you could add those files here, and then you could query them. It will use this as its repository. So that's what's neat about a project. And then every conversation I have will show up here, and it says start a new chat or drag in an old one. So maybe I tried to use ChatGPT several times as a strategic partner, and I want to bring those past chats in. You just come over and drag them in, and they'll be added automatically. So you don't have to necessarily start from the beginning to get that to work. So that's a really great tool. You can also work collaboratively in those tools, which is neat. Okay, so that's a little bit about personalization.
So
yeah.
I maybe I'm wrong, but so that was a little trick that I've never saw before. But I feel like I've a couple days will pass and I'll revisit the same, project or topic.
Yes.
And I feel like it builds on my prior chats.
It does.
Oh, okay.
Especially if you come back and just click into it.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Let's check on everything's a little, so it's finished our deep research. So we'll come back to that in just a second. But yes, if you click on any of these, so let's just go back to, last week I was in the LA area. So I had it create a comic book image of the Hollywood, California area. Let's see if this was actually really funny, if it shows up. Because it had some of the really cool Hollywood signs up, and one of them said drugs. So we all kind of got a kick out of that. But so I went through a whole process where I actually selected on the image that sign and said remove drugs. And so that's a neat part of this new image tool, is that you can actually edit specifically your image. And but anyway, I was just trying to show you can go back and keep having that conversation. One thing it struggles with is if you get a very long conversation or you're working on a very big document, it's like its memory starts to fail. So the bigger, the more complex, the longer, it can get to a point where it starts giving you total gibberish. And it's just that its memory can't keep all of that it had before in it. So most of the time you won't encounter that. But for instance, I was working on a webinar that was referencing a 500-page report. And it just had some trouble. Like it was really great at analyzing that report, but then when I would go in and ask for, I'm talking like days of like conversations. When I would ask for something, sometimes it'd give me like some total junk. And so we find that happens a little bit in the very long, complex types of conversations. So just something to be aware of. So I was going to do one of these for Seattle, which I'm still happy to do, but basically in this new tool, it's really cool. If you just click on the image that it creates, you can, this little up here in the right corner, there's a little paintbrush selection tool. I'm not sure if the, I don't know why the display is so crazy, but you basically just take the little selection tool and just highlight what you want it to change. So, and then in the box, I just said remove drugs, and then it did, and here it is. This is the output that it gave me that time. But the previous image creation tool, I don't know if any of you played with it, the words were gibberish. They were always spelled wrong. If you asked it to make a change, it would change the whole thing. So it's very cool what it's doing now. Let's put it to work on a comic book image of Seattle while we're doing a few other things. So, and the main difference, I will just kind of finish that conversation. The main difference of like the project or just clicking into a past thing is, are there multiple kinds of conversations you want to have with this one project? That's how I would separate it, or keep organized.
Could I have one that's like, would this be useful to have a project that's called like Legacy Group? And I put all of my work conversations into there, so it was like everything that I've been working on for work.
Yeah.
Would that be beneficial?
Maybe it could be overwhelming.
Okay.
It might be better if it was a specific project at work.
Okay.
If you mainly use it for work, but if you only use it for work a little bit and you use it for personal stuff more, then that might be exactly what you want to do.
Personal conversations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. And then
because then it draws on all those conversations rather than.
That's right. That's right. And you can do, like I was showing you, you can do, sorry, I deleted it. You can do those custom instructions. So for instance, if it was a personal, you could say, I'm married, I have 3 kids, they're these ages, help me when you respond, keep these things in mind. These are their birthdays, these are what they're interested in, whatever. So yes, you can have that and will only be related to that project and the queries or the conversations in that project. And that's some of what really helps to set it apart. Let's see. Okay, let me put this guy to work on just our fun thing here. Create a comic book style image that embodies the city of Seattle, Washington. So we'll let that work for a second. And let's take a look at our deep research query. Idaho market expansion. Okay, so this window's a little overwhelming. Let me close that first. Okay, so you can see this first part is basically where I gave it my query. It said, great, I'll go get to work on it. And it's not giving us very good resolution. But basically what it says is the research was completed in 13 minutes. It went to 28 sources and did 156 searches. And then it's got a window, again, kind of one of those pop-ups where it's got all of our output. And we'll look at that in just a second. Over here on the right-hand sidebar, there's 2 tabs. One is activity, and the other one is 28 sources. And so it actually walks you through step-by-step what it did along the path. So for instance, the first one, I'm gathering current market size, growth trends, key competitors, potential customer segments, and barriers to entry. This involves examining market size for office furniture and commercial flooring in Idaho, analyzing growth trends, identifying key competitors, and understanding potential barriers. And it says, search for Idaho commercial interiors market size. And then it says, I found an IBIS World report on flooring installers in Idaho. So it just walks you through step by step. So it's kind of cool. You can like understand how it worked. Obviously, it's got a list, if I click on sources, a list of all the different places that it searched. So those are easily referenceable for you and accessible. I'm going to close that sidebar so it's easier, hopefully, to see. But when we start to look at the output, it's got a title, Market Expansion Analysis for Legacy Group Inc., Idaho Commercial Interiors. It's got an executive summary, Idaho Commercial Interiors market size, and then it walks through each of the different areas, office, furniture, market in Idaho. And it references, you can see these little gray bubbles. It gives you the direct link where the sources and data come from. I'm really sorry you guys can't read this. I know it's not nearly as compelling to look at a blurry screen. And so I'll just read through kind of the highlights here so you get an idea of how comprehensive this is. And again, I'm happy to email this to you if you'd like it. Commercial flooring market in Idaho, combined interior markets, and then it's got a table that summarizes the current market size indicators. Then it moves into market growth trends and demand outlook for the next 3 to 5 years. It looks at population and economic growth, construction and real estate activity, office furniture demand trends, commercial flooring and interiors outlooks, specific sector trends, and it's digging into technology and corporate offices, healthcare, education, hospital, and multifamily. And then it moves into the competitive landscape in Idaho for flooring and furniture. And it talks about different major office furniture dealers and interior firms. So OEC, Office Environment Company, create spaces. Freeform, formerly Business Interiors of Idaho, you know, blah, 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 it's got 3. I was talking to a gentleman last week and he said I think they were putting out an RFP is what the situation was. And they were looking to see like, who are the other people that might be putting out this RFP and who are our competitors. And they kept coming with the same list. And then they finally thought, let's just try ChatGPT and deep research and put it to work on this. And they came up with one new company that they hadn't come up with before. And that they finally reached out to them. They're like, how did you find us? Like, we don't tell anybody. Like, we stay off the radar. We decline all interviews, like everything. And so ChatGPT finds some very interesting data and resources out there that we might not find other ways. So it's got a list of potential competitors here. It's got a summary, competitive takeaways, major commercial flooring contractors. And again, it's got a list of the major competitors in the area and the takeaways for that. Key customer segments in Idaho that are non-government, and it talks about each of them: corporate offices, healthcare, education, hospital and retail, industrial, manufacturing offices, other commercial verticals. It's going to go to barriers to entry and key considerations, and it digs into a bunch of different areas like established relationships and brand loyalty, need for local presence and logistics, labor and skills availability, regulatory and licensing, market fragmentation and geographic spread, competitive response, economic uncertainties, and then it finishes with strategic recommendations and expansion feasibility in target regions. And so it actually is going to dig into, it says prioritize the Boise, Treasure Valley, and beachhead regions. And why should Boise be first? Focus on differentiation, leverage existing client networks and testimonials. And then it says regions to target after Boise, Coeur d'Alene and Idaho Falls. And then it digs into each one of those. So invest in local marketing, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I'm really sorry you can't see it better, but it's pretty amazing. I'm happy for all of you to kind of come look at it during a break as well, but it's pretty amazing the depth of information that it can gather and compile and put together for you. So it's really the kind of thing we like to think of. You know, you've hired that consultant to go do that work for you. It takes them a week or two, but you know, it's that amount of output. So that's my demo for ChatGPT. I'm happy to answer more questions. But otherwise, I'm happy to take a quick break if everybody would like a break, and then we'll regroup and continue.
Any questions?
Can you email me that?
I'm happy to. Yeah, I'm more than happy to.
You know, he was in and out of different positions, treasurer and all that. And then
it just popped up on my screen.
last
So you're good.
spring, we were getting ready. So a year ago, we were getting ready for renegotiations in
Okay.
August.
Okay.
And all these people were missing.
Was he able to? Right.
It's like,
Okay.
where's the rep?
Right.
Oh, he's no longer with us.
Oh,
Where did
that's
he go?
helpful.
We'd rather not say. And then I started reading everything else. Crazy.
Okay.
You might add.
Well, that's okay. I just didn't want to leave behind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, perfect. So I was
So cool.
loop back on this before we finish out. There's that Seattle, Washington image. It's a lot of fun. And if you ever needed to edit it, like I was showing you, just click on it. And that's when it kind of pops it into that new window. And just to kind of, so could you move us for just a minute
Oh,
out of that corner? Thank you. So right here is that little paintbrush tool that I mentioned. And that's, you just select that and you could just, here, let's just do.
Add more sun to Seattle.
Yeah, less sun. But anyway, I mean, I'm just being silly, but you know, you could, it's a beautiful sunny day since I've been here. But yeah, but it'll take a minute, but it's really excellent now, you know. Maybe my.
Quick question. So based on that, could I put a prompt saying, change this picture to include branding for smart talent using?
Oh.
Let's do it. Okay, while it's loading, I did this morning. I'll just show you. So Sora
is a tool right here. It's one of those little modules, and it takes a while to run, but I told it to, this is my prompt, T-Rex playing with Seattle Seahawks. So they just make little videos. It's free, it's part of my Teams account, it's not something extra I'm paying for, and they make fun little videos. Are they the most amazing? Probably not, but if you just want to play with it or do something for a quick presentation, they can be a lot of fun. So one person told me in a meeting recently, he's like, I think that the simpler the prompt for videos and images, the more effective. So sort of the opposite of what we've been talking about with deep research and some of these others. So tell me what you said you wanted me to add. I'll type it in while it's loading.
Edit the picture to include branding from smarttalentstaffing.com.
We'll just give it a second, and then we'll let it run, and we'll check on it again later. Since we could see it a little bit more clearly on the screen, I wanted to show you. So I don't know if that's less fun, but change font blue. Exactly. So, but you can see it didn't change everything. It made some modifications. So okay, I'll ask it this question, and we'll just see if it says yes or no. Yeah, so it's getting started. So we'll come back. We'll check on that. I am going to switch back to my presentation.
I did notice during my research and assistance through trying to, so I needed to give this RFP a grade sheet for Smart Talent, which is not something that we have.
Okay.
Because every customer is different, every city is different, so we don't have just like, if you need a forklift driver, here's your rate.
Okay.
Well, they wanted me to give them a rate sheet.
I see.
And so I went into our system, I downloaded all of the position titles that we've staffed in the last year.
Yeah.
I copy and pasted that into chat and just said, can you look in Pierce County, Washington, give me the minimum pay and the max pay for these positions, and listed it.
Yeah.
What I did notice is that would only do like 25 job descriptions and it would get overwhelmed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
That was normal.
So,
I just kind of like broke it into sections and
perfect.
just added it and then manually
Yes.
kind of went
I think
in.
we were having a sidebar conversation
okay.
about that.
Yeah,
So that's a great clarification that I do think it gets overwhelmed when the amount of text, and you have had multiple queries, sometimes it doesn't do great. So break it into sections, maybe move to a project and break it into sections in the project. But yes, sometimes those really long kind of documents and conversations, it can just gets messed up. Yes, it's like its memory starts to get jumbled and you get dumb responses that just don't make sense. But I think it's still a tool that's evolving. So I think we're also learning how to work with it. And I think that's part of
I just didn't know if there was an easier way to or if you had a trick to load it.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Keeping it organized in its own separate
Yes.
project does make sense.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And then
you
really
continue
helps.
to build on that.
Yes. Steve, would you mind moving? Or are they going away? Thanks.
I'm trying to stay paying.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Let me get us back on track. Yeah, this is working so much better. So I think it's going to have a great thing. One last thing I'll mention about ChatGPT, and we'll check on the image at the end, but is that he was asking me a question about the app, and we have found this anecdotal that the apps are great for quick queries. Like I said, when I was at LAX and I was like, give me some restaurant recommendations, super perfect, great use case. But if I'm going to do analytics, even for the computer app, I don't find it as effective as the web interface. I don't know why that is. It doesn't make sense to me from like a cloud computing perspective, but anecdotally, we have all found that to be true in our company. So I just pass that along. Okay, we're back from our break. Okay, I want to shift gears now. So we've kind of gotten a good overview of ChatGPT, what these generative AI interfaces look like. And I want to just do a quick conversation about Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's a huge productivity tool that a lot of companies have as somewhat low-hanging fruit. Is anybody here already on, it sounds like Chris is, but he stepped out. But anybody already on the Microsoft 365 Copilot?
Well, we have 365 and I was just talking to the team about Copilot, but I don't know if we.
It's an upgrade, and we'll talk about it just a little bit. Yes, but you guys are already on it and using it, yes. So a little bit more and a little bit aren't. Okay, perfect. You guys? Or not yet?
I think we are.
It's okay. So I like to kind of call out, Microsoft does own 49% of OpenAI. And yeah, of course. And so there is a little bit of a battle going on. You can watch in the news. It's kind of fun every once in a while. But Microsoft is mad at OpenAI. They want the latest model for Copilot. And OpenAI is like, nope, this is the one you get. So they're having their own little wars and internal tips. But that's why the model for Copilot is not the most updated. They just don't have full access to OpenAI's models. This is a quick video about Microsoft 365 Copilot Wave 2. So they're releasing new functionality for that product suite in different waves. This wave came out in the fall, and I think it paints a really great picture of what this technology brings to the table for productivity and how it can impact your business.
Yeah, there we go.
Today, we're announcing Wave 2 of Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can think of Copilot as the UI for AI. It's about bringing the web plus work plus Pages together as the new AI system.
Pages is a dynamic, persistent canvas designed for multiplayer AI collaboration. You now want to turn this simple response into a page. Here, you can keep working on your own, with colleagues, or with Copilot. BizChat turns your organizational content into a rich database of information and insight, where all of your data comes together. Web data, work data, and line of business data, right in the flow of your work. We'll start by pivoting from web to work. Your coworker had an introductory 2-hour meeting with the customer last week. So from right here in Pages, they asked Copilot to reference the recording of that meeting and insert a bulleted list of the requirements. In seconds, Copilot was able to synthesize the discussion and give your team the key takeaways. Now, we all rely on information from the web to do our jobs, but where work really happens is in Microsoft 365.
We are excited to announce Copilot in Excel with Python. Copilot opens up a new workspace. It shows a preview of what it's reasoning over, creates a plan to analyze it in a way that is immediately useful, and executes it by running and writing Python code.
PowerPoint is where people go to create and tell a story. Introducing Narrative Builder. With Copilot in PowerPoint's new Narrative Builder, you are in creative control. It starts with a draft outline, where you can reorder the flow, delete topics you don't want, or add new ones, and ensure you've got a solid outline before creating a presentation. Managing your inbox can feel like a full-time job. Today, a new inbox is here. Introducing Prioritize My Inbox. Let's look at this email from a new customer. When you select it, Copilot shows you why it thinks it's significant and highlights what action you need to take. This is a key customer for the next few months, so you teach Copilot that all emails mentioning them are top priority.
We're enabling every organization to break free of yesterday's take on business process. Copilot agents supercharge every business process.
You can create an agent with a single click from any SharePoint site, library, or folder. In just a few seconds, your Copilot agent is ready to be used or shared with others. Let's add it to your team chat so everyone can work with the agent. Now, all those artifacts in SharePoint are immediately accessible and useful, so Copilot can reason over all the relevant content to find what your team needs.
Wow, there you have it. This is just the beginning of Wave 2.
And we're just getting started. I cannot wait to see what you do with all these new capabilities.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with Zoom today, but I hope you got the gist there. I know the video was all out of whack and the sound is off, but I hope that paints the picture of what Microsoft is bringing to the table with that Microsoft 365 Copilot. So the idea there is a lot of productivity value layered into their tools.
So are you using like regular Microsoft email with ChatGPT?
So great question.
Together?
Yeah, so what we often recommend to clients as we're helping them, especially if they're exploring a Microsoft 365 Copilot upgrade, is we often deploy a Teams environment of ChatGPT to get everybody used to generative AI, using it, familiar with the functionality. But of course, you lose some of the productivity efficiency that you get in Microsoft 365 because you got to copy and paste and updated formatting and all that kind of stuff. Not a huge big deal, but it's just that little tiny bit of productivity you can lose. But what we do find is that we start there with everybody, they get familiar with it, learn how to prompt, all that good stuff. And then we roll out Microsoft 365 Copilot, we do the training, we get them familiar with that. Well, they like ChatGPT so much, a lot of companies won't give it up and they keep both. There are a lot of companies that don't want the expense of both, and so they get rid of ChatGPT. That's completely fine. But yes, so that's the kind of, it doesn't necessarily, there are some backend integrations that you can do, but I still think you're going to get the better productivity lift if you're only in the Microsoft environment. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you're probably kind of copy paste kind of stuff like that.
So Copilot is equal to ChatGPT.
No, it's behind. It is a good, powerful tool, but it is not on the current model that ChatGPT is on. So it is still. Do you use it, or you're not upgraded yet? Somebody used it.
I believe it was.
Okay. Yeah, I think he can add some color to that when he comes back. But yeah, I think that most people find that it's still helpful. It's still good, especially for like analyze my Excel spreadsheet or something like that. But some of the you guys are all in ChatGPT enough to know it's evolving quickly. The Copilot product does not evolve that quickly. So does that kind of help? Yeah, I just had a little bit of color. So yeah.
At the beginning of that, am I understanding it correctly that it listened to a recording?
Yes.
And
yes. So Microsoft 365 Copilot, and I say that whole name because it's a really specific product. It's an upgrade, like an add-on to your Microsoft subscription. So you probably have a seat for everybody at your company. If you want to roll out the 365 Copilot product to people in your company, and I say that because you rarely want to roll it out to everybody, it's a per seat add-on. And it really takes some prep work to get ready for that. And so what it can do in that specific example is it attaches itself to your team meetings and it automatically records, it automatically takes notes, it will send out all those meeting notes if you wanted to, all that kind of thing. And then you can make the to-do list, you can make the follow-up, you can send an email to follow up. A lot of really slick integrations like that exist kind of natively in that product. So like the Excel stuff that it might have been hard to follow, that was one of the hugest evolutions of the Wave 2 product. Was the Excel original launch was not awesome, but this new one is pretty amazing. You can just have it create these complex formulas for you and integrate it into your spreadsheet. So really some neat stuff at work there, and can be hugely impactful to your company. So when we go and help people get ready for a Microsoft 365 Copilot, this is a readiness score that Microsoft recommends that you do some evaluation. So these top 3 areas: technical, licensing, and user permissions and data security. That's your IT folks, and it's really their chance to shine and really make sure that their house is in order. That stuff, again, lives on the IT side. Down here, content and data management, that's where some work really needs to be done. So we're talking about content and data management. It's the organization of all those files. It's the organization or the naming conventions of, naming conventions of your files, categorized and labeled, accessible to the right people, free of errors, duplicates, outdated information. What do I mean by that? You probably have, say, some old job descriptions in your HR files, or financial budgets from 5-10 years ago, maybe drafts of them, right? You don't need drafts. You don't need old, outdated files that aren't going to help you with all those productivity pieces. You want to make sure you're using maybe the final budget, that might be valuable, or jobs that you're still hiring for or replacing for, those might be important. We had a client once, they had a PDF from an old product. They hadn't produced it in 35 years. They stopped supporting it 31 years ago. They wanted to upload it to their new, file structures. And we were like, that doesn't make any sense, right? That's garbage in, garbage out. Your system's going to be using this as important current data, and it's not those things. So that's the process that we're talking about in cleaning up all of your data. This does take some time, feels overwhelming, but it's going to set you up for success. And it's really what's going to get everything lined up and ready for your people to be successful if they jump into the system. So it's a step that's really important and kind of critical to take. So a rollout of Microsoft 365 Copilot is always recommended to be done in phased groups. They recommend a pilot group, and that can either be kind of a leadership team. It can be folks that are just super excited about AI. You can pick and choose 5 to 10 folks. You're going to roll it out to them. They're going to start using it. They're going to troubleshoot. You're going to make some changes, and then you're going to roll out to group 2. So usually about 5 groups is what we see, and that works really well. So in this scenario, it took probably about 180 days, maybe a half a year, 6 months to get through all 5 of those groups. And that way you just make sure everything is functioning well before you launch it out to your whole company and you've got some kind of a problem. One of the key things that we see as important to a Microsoft 365 Copilot rollout, but also any AI rollout, is customized use case specific training. So these are numbers from a client of ours, a pharmaceutical company out of North Carolina. They have 280 employees, and they made the decision to roll out 365 Copilot to 125 of those users. So that's an annual subscription cost of $45,000. It's an extra $30 per seat. So 125 users, annual subscription of $45,000, but we do productivity measurements as we work with our client. We found a $4 million productivity gain just in the efficiency of writing those emails, sending those meeting notes, like all of that stuff that's taken off of people's plates. And that was equal to $80,000. So we go back to that same question, what would you be able to take on with that extra time? Like, how are you going to be able to better leverage your job, your employees, these use cases, right? To grow in the strategic ways you want to grow. And this is an example of a company that was all in. Like, they did the training, those people showed up for training. I can't tell you how many times we're working with a client, we're hosting a training, it's for 30 people, 2 people come. Like, that is not going to be a successful rollout, right? And so we really, really hone in on is, how are your folks going to use it? Like, what's the flow look like? What's going to be important in the Microsoft 365 rollout for them? Like, how do we train them on those specific use cases? A lot of great generic training, but how do we make it customized for your company? Be successful. So a question that we often get, and I know I touched on it earlier, is what's right for me? ChatGPT, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Gemini. The last two, if you're a Google shop, Gemini's perfect. Like, that's part of Google, that's fantastic. Stay there, unless you just want to change to Microsoft. Same thing, if you're in Microsoft and you're happy, no reason to switch to Google. They've all got these tools, they're all getting better. I would say Gemini is behind right now, but it will only get better. So I don't worry about that as a long-term competitive advantage. And ChatGPT, these are embedded tools. They're part of your workspace, that we think of with the sheets and Excel and PowerPoint and all that stuff. ChatGPT is standalone. So it can do some interactions with some of these tools, but it's not the smooth, slick, integrated interaction of a Microsoft 365 Copilot. So, like the story I said, you might want both. You might just want one, maybe a financial decision. That's okay too. But they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Okay. There we go. Okay, AI agents. AI agents is a really hot topic for this year. I think it's going to continue to be a hot topic for all of 25 and probably even into 26. So AI agents, I like to describe them as basically an assistant that you send off, they do a task, and then they bring you back the results. So kind of what we saw with deep research, we gave it a task, it went off, it did its work, and it brought us back the results. This definition says a low to no code solution for building your own custom AI solutions for repetitive business processes and tasks. So the idea there is, especially if it's something repetitive that needs to happen often, get an agent created that can go do that task, and they can do it over and over again, and they don't need a coffee break, they don't need a raise, like they're just out there doing their thing, and then they bring it back. Always, I think the key thing is they bring it back to the human, right? Human oversight is still the most important thing that we talk about with AI. The next step in AI agents is autonomous agents. So that would be the agent you've created, it works well, now I'm going to turn it on, it's going to run 365, 24/7 in the background, work independently, ask me for help when it needs it. Yeah, I'm going to show you a quick video. It's a Microsoft video about their AI agent space. I think it paints the best picture that I've been able to find in a short video about how agents are going to work, how they're going to impact your business, and how simple they are to build. And
with Copilot Studio, customers now have the power to build autonomous agents to drive AI-first business process. Let's take a look at how McKinsey & Company, one of the largest global management consultancies, is piloting a client service agent with these new Copilot Studio capabilities. Say a prospective McKinsey client sends an email requesting an engagement. As soon as the email is received, the agent gets to work extracting the relevant details. It then follows a series of steps, including verifying any previous engagements with this customer, validating the industry sector, summarizing the client needs, and identifying the appropriate McKinsey expert to meet with the client. It then writes and sends an email to the selected expert with the relevant client details, the agent effectively reasoning over the situation to come to a resolution. It's been given operational guidelines in Copilot Studio, and it can think and act within those guardrails to get the job done. Now let's go behind the scenes to see how the agent was built. It started in Copilot Studio with simple instructions outlining the job it needs to perform. In this case, the agent's tasked with fielding all incoming engagement requests from McKinsey clients. That means it monitors inbound requests, identifies the right McKinsey partner to meet with the customer, and sends an email to finalize the details. The agent has clear triggers, which allow it to work autonomously. It's on 24/7, looking for those triggers. In this case, it's looking for an email. But it could also be triggered by events from a wide range of sources, including line of business applications. The agent has a knowledge base, enabling it to tap into both your productivity data, leveraging the Microsoft Graph, and your line of business systems across knowledge sources like SAP, ServiceNow, and Fabric. Finally, the agent has clearly defined actions it can take to get work done. And you can add new actions from over 1,500 data connectors. Based on the specifics of each incoming request, the agent identifies and executes the most appropriate actions for the situation. If you want to see what the agent is working on, you can go to the Activity tab. You just saw how the agent managed one engagement, but this agent is actively managing dozens of inbound requests from many different clients, all at the same time. You can see its performance at the top, or delve deeper in the Analytics tab. There are some instances when the agent knows it needs to escalate to a human. Let's take a look at one of those. We can see the steps the agent already completed, but then it got stuck. Let's dig deeper to see what happened. It looks like it couldn't find the partner, as he is no longer at the company. This triggered a flow where the agent needed to escalate to a human. Let's jump to BizChat, where we can see the notification from the agent. Copilot presents all relevant information from the manager to verify. The manager decides to manually reassign the engagement to someone else on the team. Now the agent can continue to work, processing the final details and sending an email to the right people. In piloting this agent, McKinsey & Company found lead time could be reduced by 90% and administrative work reduced by 30%. That was just one example of an agent being piloted. Soon, we anticipate every organization will have a constellation of agents that support individual employees, teams, and functions to orchestrate business processes. Copilot Studio will be where you build these agents, and Copilot will be where you interact with them. With Copilot Studio, every customer has the power to build their own custom autonomous agents.
I hope that paints the picture of where agents are going. And I kind of highlight that I think Microsoft is doing a great job of that, keeping it in their interface, because there are a lot of third-party agent platforms that are popping up. They're fun to play with. I would encourage all of you to check them out. Things like Manus, I think it's called Complexity, there's Agent AI, and there are different individuals building these agents, and you can play with them. But in the Microsoft universe, it's only going to interact with your data. It's only going to interact with your systems. And I also think it's important to note at this point, like, you don't start with an AI agent, right? You've got to build your AI foundation. You need to make sure all that data is correct, right? You don't want it pulling on 35-year-old PDFs. It's making these important decisions or sending emails on your behalf. So agents are the future. It's the direction. It's going to be a huge topic the rest of this year. They're going to get easier and easier to implement. They're going to be more and more powerful, but you've got to get down that path before you can start working with agents. So the next slide's got just some examples of where autonomous agents might exist in the future. And so AI-powered demand forecasting, hopefully just in the background be analyzing all that historical data and predicting demand for you. AI-powered CRM assistants. Of course, we know our sales folks are terrible at updating CRMs. Like, anything that'll help is going to be amazing. Automated IT help desk. We're already seeing AI agents roll out in IT help desk situations. The simple use cases, right, is reset passwords or troubleshoot really basic stuff. But there was a company just recently, they're a coding interface company. So a lot of folks that do a lot of coding, they use this particular tool. They like to log into multiple interfaces. It's important, they want to see on their phone, they want to see on their computer. Well, this company had released an AI agent, like a chatbot, and it had created a new rule for the company that said you could only be logged into one interface. So anyone logged into multiple interfaces that shut down their account. So this caused a huge uproar in their community. A lot of people threatening to leave. Like, why did you create this new rule? Because when they went to the website and chatted with the bot, it said, there's a new rule. You can't be in these multiple things. So that's an AI agent that's on rogue, right? There's not enough human insight. It took them a while to figure out what had happened, that this agent had created this rule and implemented it across the company. So then they had to roll that thing back. Obviously, they had to make nice with all their customers, get them to stick around. But fortunately, that's humorous. There's nobody was greatly damaged in that scenario. But I think it does paint the picture that be really cautious with AI agents, like make sure that you've really tested it. They still need that human oversight. Predictive maintenance, right? Anything that can help with monitoring machine performance, predict failures, schedule maintenance autonomously, and autonomous quality control systems. So if we can inspect our products for defects using AI-powered vision, you know, anything that will help to streamline quality control is going to be very important. Okay. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about prompt engineering. So I think, you know, we've highlighted just a little bit when we looked at some of the examples in ChatGPT, how what you prompt can make a big impact to your results. So prompt engineering is exactly that, right? It's crafting your specific inquiry to effectively communicate with and guide your AI system for optimal and relevant responses. You know, as recently as 6 months, a year ago, people were saying, you need to hire people just for prompt engineering. I don't think that's true. And I think that people understand that now. Like we all are getting the hang of prompting. I think that the systems are getting much smarter in understanding us as well. So we're all mutually evolving together. But I still think that at least for the foreseeable future, understanding how to effectively ask your AI to give you the correct results is going to be an important skill set. So I've got a quick video just to kind of remind us all what prompt engineering is. And yeah.
Generative AI puts us in control of entire worlds just waiting to be unlocked, and prompts are our key to unlocking them. Working with generative AI is like working with any collaborative partner. The less information we give someone, the less detailed they're able to be. The more specific we are, the more likely we'll get what we want. And that's what prompt engineering is all about. Designing better prompts so we get better results. Similar to how we learn to search the web, we refine, edit, adjust, and try new things until we find what we're looking for. Eventually, that process becomes second nature, and that's where we're at with generative AI. We're discovering what makes the best prompts, things that are universal, adaptable, and provide AI with the perfect amount of context, so it does things your way.
Nice visual example. I apologize about the video lag and delays. These will all be in the deck if you guys are interested. You click that box later at the end and you can watch them. Like, yeah.
I was just at a conference a while ago that there was an AI segment on it.
Okay.
And one thing about the prompts that I've really taken to heart was they had someone like suggest a prompt and they said, write a children's book for 12 plus teens. That'll be the next hit kids book.
Okay.
And the facilitator refined their prompt to say, basically, you ask ChatGPT who would be best suited to write the next hit children's book. It says, okay, it's going to be C.S. Lewis and J.K. Rowling and this. And then you say, how would they collaborate to come up with a plot outline? And then we talk about how they would do it. And then you say, okay, now based on all of that, give me the outline of the next one. And it was amazing the difference in the responses. You give it all this context to draw from, specifics, then it really generated such a better response. So but a lot of times when I go into it, I say, who would be best suited to give me the best information on X? And then we'll list maybe 2 or 3 companies and say, how would they respond?
I love that. I think that's a fantastic example. And I think something else you mentioned that you're not highlighting is that you're iterating there, right? Like you're giving it a simple thing and then I'm building on that as I go. And it really excels in those situations, just the way that processing works. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. That's a great example. I have a story for you. You may have read this in the news when it happened. It was shortly after ChatGPT got launched. There was a lawyer, he had a case, he's defending his client, and he's doing some research on case law. He's got to submit a brief to the judge. And his kids were home from college, and they said, Dad, just use ChatGPT for that, like, of course, as our kids do. So he did. He went to ChatGPT, and he said something along the lines of, give me some cases that defend my client. That's it, right? So it did. It gave him a nice little output, the way ChatGPT does. He copied and pasted that into his brief, and he turned that into the judge. Well, the other side is reading this brief, and they're like, I can't find these cases anywhere. Like, where are they in case law? And he has to say, well, actually, I got it from ChatGPT. So it becomes a big shebang. The judge threatens to disbar him. Like, this is a big issue, right? So 2 simple things we can take from that, right? Like, first, a better prompt would have caused or saved him a lot of pain. So if he made even some simple changes, such as provide me case law examples from this jurisdiction that defend my client that exist in real life, right? Because it doesn't do the difference between fiction and fact if you're not clear. I think it's doing a better job of that, but I am in the habit of asking for references, like include even if it's a report, what page is that from? Like what website is this from? So I can validate that on my own. And the second piece obviously is just read the output. If you just copy and paste it and you have no idea what's in it, you cannot be sure that it's accurate and it represents your case or your perspective accurately. So you can obviously read it, talk to a coworker, use another AI system, LLM or search engine to look up that data and make sure it's accurate. So 2 simple things there, right? Prompt more precisely and use some time to validate your data. So why is prompt engineering important? I think we've really talked about this to an extent, but the better your query, the better your response. So the quality of the output is directly impacted by how detailed and well-crafted your inquiry is. It's also going to be more efficient, right? Like you spend a little bit of time on the front end asking a better question, setting the stage, like giving it its information about who it should be. You're going to get a much more efficient answer down the road. Reducing ambiguity. So the more clear and specific your request, the less misunderstanding or confusion you're going to have in that output. Obviously saves you a lot of time as well. And personalization, I talked a little bit about how you can personalize in ChatGPT itself, but in the example that Joel was just giving us, you can provide personalization even in a specific prompt or a specific set of conversations that you're having. So this is one example of a popular prompting framework. There are millions. You can use exactly what Joel was describing. You can go watch a million YouTube videos, get suggestions all over the place, find what works for you. But this is one great way to prompt and use this as a framework. So it's called the PAIN framework, and you approach it in 4 steps: the problem, the action, the information, and the next step. So as you look at this prompt, I'm struggling to improve my time management skills is the problem. Can you suggest effective strategies or techniques that I can implement to better manage my time? That's the action. I'm looking for practical advice that has been proven to work. That's the information. And also, if you could provide any additional resources or tools, that would be greatly appreciated. That's the next step. So you're going to get a much different set of output than if you simply went to ChatGPT and said, I need help with time management, right? So that's kind of the framework that we're describing here. So I often kind of get asked at this point, I know we made some jokes about it already, do I have to be polite to my ChatGPT or my LLM? And the answer is no, but when AI comes to life, I'd like it to tell me last. So, I think realistically, I have the best results and interactions with these tools when I speak to it the way I speak. So if you are inclined to say please, thank you, you're most likely going to get responses that are more in line with the way you speak. I had a Vistage gentleman recently raise his hand when I said that. He said, I have 5 Alexas in the house. One of them is a jerk, and it's in my teenage son's room. So there seems to be some real correlation to the way we speak to our generative AI and the way it speaks back to us. So, okay, I'm going to shift gears again, and we're going to take a look at some closed company AI systems. So what I mean when I say that, it's a traditional business application, the way we think of things, like, your Microsoft Outlook is special to you, it's special to your company, it's not interacting with anybody else's. We really highlight the fact that they're closed when I start this transition, because at the beginning, ChatGPT was not closed. It was very open. We didn't know what was going on with our data, and people would get very nervous. So that's what we're highlighting here, is that these are all closed systems, exactly what we're used to in the business world. And I want to just show you how there are some great systems that exist for different business functions right now. So there is truly an AI for any different area of your business that you can imagine. And this one is super fun, so it's a great lead off into this part of the conversation. The AI for creative production. I didn't hear any creative brands in here right now, but every brand has a creative component. I guess you guys build furniture. So there we go. So this is Adobe Firefly. So we all know Adobe, of course, they are amazing for images, graphics, videos, all the things. Firefly is their generative AI component. And I want you to imagine this stuff exists for all kinds of graphics, engineering, architecture, etc. This is just a really fun example. Future looks like wow. Oh wow. It's like wow. Yeah. Future looks like wow. Oh wow. And it starts right now. Yeah. Future looks like wow. Go and get it, go and get it, go and get it, go. Go and get it, go and get it, go and get it, go. So, I mean, I'm sure it paints the picture for you, like one of us could pick up these tools and be very productive, but give it to someone who knows what they're doing, and you can imagine it's just like rocket fuel. Really powerful tools, very fun. They do a really great job. AI for data analytics. So I don't know if any of you use Tableau. It's an amazing data analytics tool, creates great dashboards. It has an incredibly steep learning curve. It is not easy to use. But they've implemented a tool called Tableau GPT, and then you interact with your data and build these dashboards just the same way you do with ChatGPT. Ask it to build a branch revenue line, a campaign ROI module. They can build this stuff directly for you. Starts at about $75 per month. All these products that I'm mentioning, we don't get kickbacks on them or have relationships with them or anything like that. They're just products we've used and liked, and we like to share them with people. So AI for project management. This is a neat tool called ClickUp. You may have even seen it on your YouTube feeds or something like that. It seems to be showing up a lot. Really great for productivity, great for managing tasks, projects, documents, projects, like I said. Really simple to get started, free to starter, up to $19 per month. I actually hear a lot of folks when I'm talking to Vistage groups say, oh, I use it, my wife uses it. So people seem to really have good experiences with ClickUp. AI for content creation. So shifting gears away from the creative graphics content creation, something is not working with all the computers today. Okay, Jasper. So Jasper is a really great tool. It separates itself from a traditional ChatGPT from the fact that it gives you different interfaces, may not be the right word, but different prompts and different ways of interacting with your interface. And Jasper, you teach it your brand voice, you give it your brand colors, and then everybody that uses Jasper to create content, a blog post, descriptions of products, whatever those things might be, it all comes out with that same consistent brand voice. And no matter how many people you have using it, really well priced, about $39 per month. Had a gentleman recently say, we're a team of 5 marketing content creators. We started using Adobe Firefly and Jasper, and I believe we're doing the output of 20 at this point. So 2 relatively inexpensive tools, and they've quadrupled their output. So really powerful and important, impactful. AI for customer service. This is a very nice chatbot. It's called Finn. It's from a company called Intercom. I know if you're like me, you've dealt with some really bad chatbots. They leave you a little bit scarred. But this one's fantastic. What's really different about Finn is that you kind of create a data repository, upload your product manuals, your customer service interaction, that kind of thing to Finn. It learns from them immediately and can respond to people directly from that information. If it doesn't know the answer, it'll escalate to a human, it will learn the answer from you. So really great tool. This is a company that we worked with. We helped them to implement Finn, and we found that sorry, my buttons are all acting a little weird. Okay, their sales team was doing all their customer support. They were spending 30% of their sales time doing customer support. And when we implemented Finn, we got all the sales reallocated to selling rather than customer support, and they increased their annual revenue by $8 million for a 1-year investment of $125,000. So I know all of my charts look kind of like voodoo magic, but I promise you these numbers are real. It's a 60x return from one tool implementation. So AI for accounts payable. Sometimes I joke this is the least sexy of the AIs, but really it's one of the most powerful. So very impactful to a business. This tool is called Stamply, and it kind of attaches to your email. It watches for invoices that come through. It will apply different ledger codes. It will automate different workflows, set things off for approval, whatever needs to be done. We had a customer once who was a $60 million a year company, and we helped them implement Stamply. They grew to a $350 million a year company without adding any additional AP staff, with just the addition of Stamply. So they estimate that would have been 10 to 12 different employees they would have needed to add to accommodate that growth. So really powerful solution. AI for sales training and forecasting. For anyone, this tool is really powerful for anyone who does a lot of web meetings or Zoom or Teams or whatever with clients, potential clients. Gong attaches itself to those meetings, and it actually provides you a ton of feedback, sentiment analysis, and training. So it will actually provide training at the end that says, your sales team spoke too long here, you lost the customer sentiments at this point, this is the prediction of the sale. We think you're going to get it. We don't think you will. Really amazing tool. We love it. A lot of our clients love it. Starts at $9,800 a year for 3 seats. That does change from time to time, but really a great tool. I don't know, do any of you have the kind of business where you've got reps out in the field talking to customers all the time? So last week, and I've got to get the name of the tool when we'll get a new slide for it, but I was speaking with a Vistage gentleman. They are a painting business, so he's got folks out, talking and bidding all the time. And they had a tool similar to Gong. They were able to put on all their reps' phones, and it records their entire conversation with the customer, potential customer, and it provides all the same feedback when they get back in their truck before they even go to their next sales call. It also is recording all those conversations. Management can listen to them. They're also graded against their goals, whatever the company goals are. Like, are they reminding them to speak about all of the different things that are important and everything else? So he said it was pretty expensive, but they really loved it. Everyone kept asking, well, what about privacy? Did you tell them you're recording? So obviously things you got to address. I'm not saying it's trivial. You got to be upfront, but these things they exist in a lot of new formats, not just the web meetings. So AI for RFP responses. This is a tool called Responsive, really powerful tool. So you can upload all your past RFPs. It will learn the types of questions and answers that you are asked and that you give. And then, of course, you put up a new RFP and it will answer those questions for you. If it encounters something it doesn't know, it will prompt and it will ask you. It also, when you upload those RFPs, you tell it, I won this one, I lost this one, whatever. It will provide you a guess as a sentiment, what they think you will do, how they think you will do on that RFP. So we worked with an engineering firm and we helped them with 3 different solutions. One was Microsoft 365 Copilot, so kind of core productivity. One was that responsive RFP tool, and then there was also a CAD, like an AI CAD tool that they implemented and they started using. So that's 3 different solutions, really freed up their billable hours, and they increased their annual revenue by $9 million with a 1-year investment of $150,000. So several different solutions at play there, but really impactful to their bottom line. AI for contracts, this one's usually pretty popular. When I speak about it, it's called Link Squares. You can upload all of your contracts and then just talk to them with your GPT, just the way you would just with ChatGPT. So, if you're in real estate, for example, you can inquire about leasing terms, or my client did this, or they have breached, whatever. It also will track all your dates and payments or payments are due for you. And it'll track all of that for you and provide reminders and feedback on those things. Obviously, it doesn't take the place of your lawyer, but it sure helps you get down the path. And I have had one person say they used this, and what it really helped them do was get the specific question they needed to ask the lawyer ready. Instead of asking the generic question, they were able to get to the very fine detail they needed to spend the money on with their lawyer. So I think very helpful for a lot of different things. AI for estimating and takeoffs, great tool called Toggle AI. So basically you can take all of your takeoffs, you upload them to Toggle AI, and it will provide you bids. They started about $250 per month. We had an electrical company we were working with. They were kind of friends of ours, and we said, we've encountered this tool. We're super curious about it. Would you provide us a set of your takeoffs? Let's test it out. So we gave them to a colleague of mine. She knows as much about construction as I do, which is to say nothing. And she took those tools. We also didn't know anything about Toggle. It took her about 30 minutes to upload those documents into Toggle. And she got a bid within about 30 minutes. It was 95% accurate. It's the bid that took them 3 weeks to work on and produce. And I had a gentleman say 5% could be a big deal in our business. And I said, absolutely, but that's 30 minutes, somebody with no skills, no training on this tool. We haven't customized it or set it up. So they can be much more fine-tuned and much more detailed, but really powerful, can really change the way your business operates. We worked with a different construction firm. We got Toggle in place. They were able to increase their bidding so much that they increased their revenue by $11 million with a 1-year investment of $95,000. So it can make a huge difference in the amount of work and bidding you can produce. A lot of people find they actually have to stop bidding more quickly than they run out of capacity for the actual jobs. They can bid so much more. So I just like to paint the picture there. I hope it helps to paint the picture that you can really find AI for pretty much any part of your business, even if it was something I didn't mention. Almost certainly it's either there already or it's being developed right now. So let's shift gears kind of into the final part of what I'm here to talk to you about today. And that is now, how do we bring AI into your business? How do you get started? Okay, we believe that success with AI really depends on two things. So obviously strategy and planning, but then that use case specific training. That's what really kind of makes the ROI rubber meet the road, right? Like you want your folks to be trained on how to use that AI tool specifically for their business case. That's where you're going to find a lot of success. So what we describe as kind of the path to attaining your aspirations through AI is this pyramid. So at the bottom, we see quick wins. And a quick win is something that is high impact and low effort. That's how we define it. It should impact and increase your capacity, your productivity, your profitability. So high impact, low effort solutions, hopefully you can get them in there quickly and really produce good results. They also build a lot of confidence in your people. Like that's the goal with quick wins, is to get folks that might be scared of AI, unsure, not confident, to be familiar with these tools and realize that they are very helpful and that they are willing to take on more. So as you move up the pyramid into core business, these kinds of solutions, they might be client facing somehow. They might touch core business features and functionality in a way that you need to be more cautious. Might take a little bit more white glove treatment. So you don't want to jump into those first. You want to really make sure everybody's ready, your company and your clients, before you do that. But they can really move the needle on those products and services. So they can be very impactful. And the very top of the pyramid at auto, we kind of describe that scaled growth, staying ahead of the competition. This is where AI is going. There are very few solutions that are fully automatic and like running on their own at this point, but you also can't start there. You've got to start at the base of the pyramid and build your way up. Okay, so how do you choose an AI project for your business? So there's two ways to look at that, right? Like I can think about what AI can do, what the sky's the limit, pick something from a pile of AI products that are out there, or I can think about what would be valuable for my business. And that's what we always encourage companies to do, is to start over here on this side of the Venn diagram and focus on what could be valuable for your business. And I'm going to give you some questions to ask to get you down that path. But when you start on that side of the Venn diagram and you create a list of what could be valuable for my business, where could I solve pain points and tedious tasks? And then I go out and look for AI solutions that could solve those. I find the overlap in that Venn diagram. Those are going to be the feasible and valuable projects. I feel confident that each of you have been through a bad technology rollout in your company at some point. And often they can be not always the results of this, but they can often be the result of this. This product was awesome, it helped another company, we're going to implement it. That may not be your same pain point. They can also fail because of the lack of that use case specific training. I beat that horse, I know, but it's a really important one. And so anyway, these are parts of the puzzle that we see that'll help you solve that problem, get you down the path to choosing the correct solutions. Okay, so how do you implement those AI quick wins? Okay, we're going to start by identifying problem areas. And I'm going to lead you down the path of that. What are some questions you can ask to get brainstorming on that? And then you determine if there are AI solutions. So that's when you go out into a big circle of possible AI products that could solve problems. And you're doing a 30,000 foot view, right? You're just seeing, are there RFP solutions? Are there contract management solutions? You're not picking one at this point, anything like that. Just, are they available? Yes, great, let's move on. Now we're going to assess the impact and the effort. Is this going to be a 1-year project? Is this a 6-week project? What does that look like? What's the training requirements? How is that going to impact my business? When I've discovered these 3 areas, I can really start mapping out a quick win matrix. I'll show you what that looks like as well. But then I can also start building a roadmap towards my plans and my AI strategy. So then at the very end, once I've got a roadmap, what my approach is going to be, what my company is going to be comfortable with, how quickly we'd like to move into these, then we can execute that AI selection. So that's when we get really focused on, does this meet all of our requirements? What are the top 3 products we want to bring into a test environment, and go from there. Okay, so the 2 questions. So these are the questions that we ask as we workshop with our clients and we get started down this path. And so it's, what are the main pain points and challenges that you face? And also, what tasks are tedious, manual, or inefficient? And so what I'd like to do is break up into some groups, maybe a 3, we do 3, 3, and a 2. Is that good? And then I would just ask you to have this conversation. We can spend maybe like 7 minutes and just begin that brainstorming process. And this is the same process I'd like you to take back to your companies. Start this conversation with different parts of your organization. Come together and have this conversation on a more global scale. And I think you'll find a lot of items can show up on that list very quickly. and that'll help you move down the path. So let's break up into some groups. I'll give you, say, 7 minutes, and we'll work through this for a few minutes, and then we'll regroup. We'll talk about it.
Okay, that's good.
I guess 3. All right.
We got a lot of stuff.
And I'll also clarify, it doesn't have to answer both. It can be either or, it's just getting on the path. Yeah.
For me, I was kind of working away when she did this, just that thing. But so like one thing we have to do every week or every 2 weeks, trash those skills. I got put it on Monday. It comes in this weird form, right? Because of the way that program works, it's a weird format.
A lot of like key points.
Change all the formatting down to get into a table. Customer table. And I just put it on, and just pasted that actually with ChatGPT and said, how many hours did this person have in April? And it was exact. So it's just something I'm just gonna update. I'm already working, creating a GPT that.
Okay, good. I was just gonna say, for my inbox.
What your date range for onboarding, and then wow, so something that would take me 40 minutes or so, like actually, I got this testing. But it's just that, and then like,
Well, right, that's where I'm like,
right, so it's in order for products, and we get an acknowledgement. And then the other and when it ships, yeah, so I'm wondering if there's anything we could create this, because there's different people, right? This form looks a lot different. Generalize, could it interpret things to different. That's what everyone's always like on, all my pieces on the whole side. Because it's not 911 features, it's like our place, not our desk. That looks like I'm waiting, but could potentially.
It's only the problem for all these manual.
Yeah, sure. You know, we spent all day yesterday, and I was like, but
It's not like-
doing our financial. That come up, we're trying to look at sales. And so our direct sales, and then she pulled up.
Yeah.
And what's the point of that? That doesn't make sense. You know, right. I broke down broke down database.
Imagine a lot of times.
No, they get provided a lot there. And then they also. My job here.